Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is almost hard to talk about, but almost everything you ever want to talk about. It is a visual feast that I can't even explain because even though I saw it in the best humanly way possible, I still feel like there was too much, but concentrated on certain characters as well. It was like getting pummeled with so many images and colors and ideas and Spider-Man variants and all these things, and loving every minute of it and thinking like, why can't overstuffed crazy blockbusters be like this sort of nonsense instead of like what they usually are, where you're like, I don't know what I just saw, but I don't care. I really care. I think it's very hard to see this movie and not care, just gobsmacked by the glory of both like the possibilities of animation and filmmaking in a way that no other mainstream film has done since the previous Spider-Verse, but just being completely blown away by such achievement in both animation and filmmaking, or just really filmmaking, and what this is, because like, holy shit, this is a achievement. Like, I mean, I think we all thought they could follow up the first one pretty well, but I don't think we knew what we were really getting into. This is kind of the most cinema thing I've seen in a long time. It is pushing the limits of cinema, the limits of animation to the nth degree. Also really being a story about a kid who's learning he doesn't have to follow the same rules as everyone else, even if the entire multiverse is telling him he has to. When I watch these Spider-Verse movies, because there's been a lot of multiverse movies since the Spider-Verse, and it feels like they're all almost kind of envious of that first film and all it was able to accomplish. Like, even live action Spider-Man movies finally did one with, you know, live action people coming back, and feels like everyone from even The Flash that's coming out soon after this, or Doctor Strange, or so many different multiverse things, or Loki, probably forgetting a few, they all kind of use this idea. But the difference of why this is so imaginative is like, in those it's like, oh hey, here's the one guy, or we're going to go to this one location. And in this, like, it feels so wild and crazy. You don't know who's going to pop out at any turn, but then it changes. Then you have these people. Then you're amazed that you can have these people on the screen. It's not as amazing as seeing, you know, an older actor who used to star in this thing. And sure, I liked No Way Home, and I some of those films I like a lot, but I think like trying to compete with this film is a fool's errand, especially when this film is so alive and has so many different ideas, and is trying to take on even newer ideas into this franchise, trying to be kind of a very stringent kind of blockbuster series. To compete with it is just something you're never ever going to be able to do, because your imagination isn't open to those things to the way this film is. And I think it opened up, like, I don't think Everything Everywhere All at Once would have happened with the first one, but you see them push it even further. Like you have an important film in like film history with the first one. It's very obvious it's become in the canon of family films, animated films, superhero films, and then they push it even further with this. Now, I don't necessarily want to say this is better than the first film, because I think one of the weaknesses of this is that I think the first film really represented the idea that anyone can wear the mask. That is primarily what it is about. Anyone can be Spider-Man and make their own way as Spider-Man. And like, I've watched that one with a bunch of little kids, and they're each picking out a different one, and kids are being a different Spider-Man. It was sort of this glorious idea of kind of like anyone can be a superhero no matter what you are, and so forth. I don't think this film does that. I know for certain characters that are in this, people have said that. I don't think that's a main theme as much. It's not really attempting to do that, so I'm not necessarily like thinking the film failed in any way. I do think like that one was a testament to, wow, holy shit, animation can do this. And that idea of inclusivity. I don't think this film is really about inclusivity to the same degree, so I don't like that as much. And it did scare the living. It did actually scare my 6-year-old. When we saw it, she had to be in my lap for a good portion of it because she was a little freaked out at the intensity of it. I do think it is a very different. The first film became like a family film kind of classic right away, as well as an animation film. What was so wonderful is an amazingly well-made animated film. I was in heaven with that one. I don't think this will be in the same way, but I think it's sort of like Back to the Future 1 and Back to the Future 2. I actually love them pretty equally. But I think, Back to the Future is kind of one of those films that's going to go down in film history. I don't know if necessarily Back to the Future 2 will for most people, but I still really love Back to the Future 2 and all it's able to accomplish. And that was the one I rewatched over and over again. And this feels that way. I mean, from where when you see Gwen Stacy or Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider's dimension, and with like this really surreal kind of like already like almost painted on thing where it's like the paint and everything is moving. It's just like, that was like, the whole time I was like, this does feel like I'm watching an art film, like a short that's nominated for the Oscars or something. And I tell people about it and they'll be like, oh, that's cool. And then they like don't see it, but then like, maybe repeat it to someone else. That person also says that's cool, but nobody watches the short. Well, in this case, they did actually check out the animation, and that's pretty cool. Looking at the glorious of like the kind of purple in that, and like the drippiness of it. Like when I watched, I did get to see this in IMAX, which if you can, there's not a lot of time to do it. And I'm sure by the time this comes out, there won't barely be any showtimes, but if you can, it just looks so glorious, some of those framings. And Gwen Stacy is really the arc of this film. You could say, yes, it plays as more of a part one, and we're getting a lot of that with like Fast X and Dune previously, and Mission Impossible supposedly is going to do those well later this summer. I do think the Gwen Stacy arc kind of like frameworks this thing, and that sort of like sort of tells a story within that. But I don't think the rest of it does feel like a part of part one. So almost like any praise of this film, you don't really know the conclusion, and it does feel like I'm reading the first couple issues of a crossover or something. Like I talked to my dad, who says like it's very like a comic book, and I agree, this is very comic book. Like it feels like, at the end, the way everything's worked out, and you have like that feels like oh, I can't wait to read the next issue. We might have to wait a while, it looks like, but like it has you on the edge of your seat, like you have to see what's coming next. And I do feel like and now it was made to be that sort of thing, but it's weird for several blockbusters to do it. Did you all read like the same weird screenwriting book again, like that one year where they all read the Save the Cat thing? I'm wondering if that's the case. But this is mainly about Gwen Stacy, who is worried because her father is looking for her because he thinks Ghost Spider had killed, or Spider-Woman, I think, and he thinks she killed Peter Parker when he turned into a lizard type thing. Then she's transported to work for the kind of Society of Spider People in the Spider-Verse, when a Renaissance Leonardo da Vinci, not DiCaprio or not even the Ninja Turtle, comes through, and he's like, they get him, and then she goes off, and then Miles sort of gets involved, and they have to sort of see the rules of the multiverse and not break them, to kind of break the multiverse apart. It's all held together with Spider-Man 2099, who's sort of the main antagonist, kind of against Miles and against destroying the multiverse. Now, this does have sort of a meta commentary, and I think a lot of people say there's a meta storyline or there's a meta plot, and a lot of times they're just sort of like reaching. But Mr. Cellos, I believe in an interview, found out that is true, that it is sort of about the people who can't have problems with Miles the character. I would also say it's a meta commentary on superheroes and superhero stories and storytelling themselves, as how like you have to do these certain things. And I think there are certain reasons for those certain things. When you're talking about film terms or storytelling terms, there are reasons people do those things, and that's how you get to the arc of where you are. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And by the way, like, he's totally warranted in, if you look at like, I'm doing a horror movie, but this doesn't happen, and I'm going to do it my own way, you really should. Like, they're not things you have to strictly follow. And I think it is saying like, and of course a film like Spider-Verse, which is just like throwing so many different characters and ideas and things out there, doesn't believe in these things, is quite appropriate. I do like how thematically it makes sense for this to be a multiverse thing. It is not just a multiverse story because multiverses are cool. I mean, that's the other thing with this movie, is it is a multiverse movie because multiverses are cool, but it also ties into the theme, and thematically it makes sense that it's about multiverse. Like, I do think these guys like making dumb puns all the time, and having a spider T-Rex and a spider cat and a spider car that's called Peter Parked Car, and like all these silly, crazy things, and have Spectacular Spider-Man show up and all this stuff. I do think that, but it's like so much of this, of what they're telling with the story, even with both the main story of what it's telling, the meta commentary, have to do with, and could only be told with, a multiverse story. It is like very actually complex. I used to think like when you had all these ideas going on in like an X-Men 2 or something, when that came out, I was like, wow, that's really hard to juggle all these things. I don't even know how their brains juggle this, and I don't even know if they are juggling it or just like, I don't understand how you organize this story, to be honest with you. It's kind of awe-inspiring, the achievement. It's probably one of the best. Both these films have been some of the best directed films I've seen, let's say in recent memory, definitely of animation direction. Because as much as people say this is a Lord and Miller thing, it wasn't directed by Lord and Miller. Justin K. Thompson, Kemp Powers, and Joaquin dos Santos, they do honestly an amazing job. But this feels like, I think a lot of films I really love, like from Evil Dead 2 to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, feel like they could fall apart at any time. It feels flimsy, it feels malleable, but it also feels like the smartest and greatest story you've ever heard, which of course I'm talking about Evil Dead 2 there. But this feels like it could fall apart at any time, and we could just go into like, let's just list off Spider-Verse films. I don't know, we need to get this done. Leave me alone. And instead, it is not doing that at all. It is trying to tell this larger story about Miles Morales. It is trying to tell like, what is a superhero? What is Spider-Man? Who is Miles Morales within all this? And why does he or doesn't he fit? What can the multiverses achieve? Who's going to be around the corner? Is it going to be somebody punny? Is it going to be, Ralph Bakshi's Spider-Man there? It's not really Ralph Bakshi, but, are we going to get a Spider-Horse? Like, it feels so unexpected in a way that, like, I feel like very few mainstream Hollywood films at this level can ever do. What I like about the like this and Everything Everywhere all at Once and the other Spider-Verse film, it feels like an imagination on fire, just like shooting out all these ideas, doing all these things, but then it's all working into the story and the screenplay and the ideas that they are telling. And I think like the greatest visual stylists in film, whether you're talking about the Fleischer brothers, like back in the day, who would do pretty crazy things and would love a multiverse, or Up Iwerks, who's the guy who actually made Mickey Mouse. They were people who believed in all these crazy visual styles, but understand its place and its purpose to it. And filmmakers like the Daniels, like the people who directed this, like Lord and Miller, who are getting all the auteur credit, which is justified but not justified if you think about it, is that they understand it as well. They understand, I think, also how to tie it in specifically, like tightly. Like this is what's interesting. Like there's a part towards the end where Ben Reilly shows up and he's joking and Andy Samberg's playing the character, but they're doing a serious scene and it totally like works. And it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, there's so many times I was like, am I taking this in right? Am I watching movies right? Have I never watched movies right? What is existence? I don't know. All Spider-Verse is this. Like, it is such a towering achievement because there's so much there. Like, I honestly, like, I don't have the time to rewatch it right away. But, like, when it comes on demand, I am going to watch it a couple times because there is just so much there. And, like, the spot from Jason Schwartzman. Oh, yeah, the spot's in the plot of this, isn't it? See, that's the thing. There's, like, so many things to talk about. The spot's in there. The spot is, I guess, causing dimensional rifts, which is kind of how this all starts. Voiced by Jason Schwartzman, does a great job. Spider-Punk is amazing. Like, Daniel Kaluuya, he's both making fun of punks, but his accent and his voice is so perfect and the animation is so perfect. Even when he's being, like, kind of silly, I believe his authenticity. Like, it feels very cartoony, everything he's saying, but he's so punk. Like, I used to hang out with I guess they were the Towson punks then, but they all became sort of Baltimore punks. And like I could tell you what that guy smelled like. And it was really cool how they did that animation. Apparently, various things were in different frame rates. I love seeing Lego Spider-Man, which was animated by a kid. Like, this movie just has so much to offer. It is like really insane that this is a thing. And I think as a movie lover and somebody who views movies and animation, this is a real absolute gift that we get a franchise like this that wants to engage with us and wants us to think and wants us to imagine and fall in love with and understand these progressive ideas that were in the first one and this one, but this one feels so much serious, like it could collapse on Miles. And I think it makes for a very interesting trilogy. It is sort of like an Empire Strikes Back sort of thing. I think if this continues to the future of cinema, if you have smart directors like what the Daniels did with Everything Everywhere All at Once, what Lord and Miller, who are, I guess, the consistent creative force through these two Spider-Verse films, I know they said they're only doing 3. If they're bringing that kind of intelligence to these, I can't see myself getting bored with this kind of thing. Because the films that have tried to do it and are not Everything Everywhere All at Once in these two films, are not thematically getting it. They're like just looking at the cool elements. And this film, as stylish as it is, as beautiful as all the animation is, so much so, I've not brought up Indian Spider-Man. I've not brought up, I don't know how many spiders, like, they didn't do Spiders Man. That one's pretty cool, though. Spider-Woman, voiced by Issa Rae. There's just so much. But what you care about is Miles Morales' character and Gwen Stacy's character, and the quiet moments of them just talking, hanging, and being spider people. Him dealing with his parents and trying to get into a good college. It is just, this film leads to such a buffet of everything it's doing, but it is really centered on what the kind of story it is. Like, a multiverse you can really get lost in, but it seems like they understand that there's a path to be telling an exact story, not a path to just wowing the audience in that sense. They want to wow the audience, but they also want you to follow it. They want you to fall in love with these characters and give a shit about them. I don't know. This is pretty amazing. I really do love these two films. I don't like to say what the best Spider-Man film is or something right off the bat, because a lot of those films I really love and I like to think about something like that. But I do think this is one of the better Spider films. Like, this is up there. Like, if you're going to rank what are the best Spider-Man films of all time, this would have to always be up there. It is an amazing achievement in filmmaking. It's an amazing achievement in animation. I just think this is a film that is alive. It is alive with the spirit of animation, that anything can happen and will happen and does happen. And it pushes all the medium and film and all that to a level that it's not asking you to push it there, but they're demanding you watch them get there. I think part of film is also like seeing something you've never seen before. And the fact that they took something that I was like, I can't believe they did this the first time, and now they've done it again. I mean, I always wanted there to be an animated Spider-Man film, and I always thought that would be really cool and just like a simple kind of story, but this is just like far away than I could have ever perceived that to be. And it's still amazing. A really, truly wonderful piece of filmmaking. I'm curious where it goes. I think seeing imagined ideas and craziness and all these things hit you at once is one of those things I haven't seen since like the first Spider-Verse or Speed Racer. But anytime you're experienced, you remember it, because not only did it hit you with all these colors, hit you with all these ideas and so many spider people, it also hit you with an experience of what going to the theater is and everything. But I think, like, over all that, you still have Miles and Gwen and the story they needed to tell, and Miles finding his place, and Gwen realizing who she is in this time stuff. I don't know how you watch this and aren't completely overwhelmed, but also completely enchanted that, holy shit, this is fucking real. Like, it is just, I think it is a film that understands its soul as much as it understands the bottom line, and understands that film is a medium in a way mainstream movies just don't, to the level that this is. This is true, like, insane kind of auteur filmmaking, while also being a great Spider-Man movie. It is so many of the things that contradict itself, but it does it all at once and makes you fall in love with it. And goddamn, this is a fun way to go to the movies, I gotta say. I'm so glad I saw this on the big screen. I'm so glad I saw it with my daughter. And I'm so glad you're all getting to see it and we're getting to talk about it. I don't know if I ever reviewed this film correctly or anything, or the best I can, I try, but I think this is a film that pushed itself to such a way that you can't deny the absolute achievement this film is, but the absolute great film that we all kind of fell in love with and can't get over and can't stop talking about, because almost every time we watch it, there's a whole new thing to obsess over, but also following the main importance of the story. It is a real class in excellent A-plus level filmmaking. To make this what it is just almost impossible, and I still don't know how they went across the Spider-Verse to make it, but I sure as fuck I'm gonna watch it again. So if you have seen Across the Spider-Verse and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.